and welcome to part, what are we, 3?
3.
Excellent. Part 3 of the Vanagard Overview. So today we're going to talk a little bit about leveling up
Mm-hmm.
and about challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no,
No. Spells and treasure.
that's right, spells and treasure. We talked about challenges last video, so click on, I don't know, one of the links below. It's
Go
going to
back.
lead to the previous video.
Go back.
So here it's, treasures and spells,
Mhm.
which are kind of integral to kind of growing your character.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to talk about leveling up and how you kind of progress in campaign mode. Okay, for those players that are out there that have played Ragnarok, they know what Essence and Destiny is.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're coming in cold into Vanagard, I mean, those are kind of like the crux, the cornerstone of how you build your character using the runic game system. So maybe we'll do a little primer.
All right.
What's Essence?
Essence is everything your character is. All of his or her like strengths, weaknesses, and experiences. All of her talents, all of his abilities, all wrapped up into one. In short, it's the number of cards you have in your deck. Each of these cards has a rune, a talent, and sometimes a little verse explaining a bit of the character's history. The more of these you have, the more mature, more experienced your character is.
Awesome. And what's Destiny?
Destiny is your ability to affect the game. Sort of your force of will, your desire when you like drive through things, how well you are at doing that. Quite simply, it is the number of cards you draw whenever you face a challenge in the game. The more cards you draw, the bigger challenges you can tackle, because the more talents you'll pull up to try to match against the challenge.
Cool. So walk us through spells and treasures.
In Vanagard, if you decide, well, if you take on more than you can chew, you take on a certain number of risk, you're drawing out cards, and you realize, I don't have enough. Spells and treasure are known as always ready cards. So there's something in your hand that you can use to try to resolve the challenge right away. The way they work is treasures drop a certain level of risk right away, and they always drop a predictable number of risk. Each treasure has a rune. If your rune matches the chapter rune, then that treasure is worth double, so it's empowered. Spells are a little different. When you cast a spell, you throw your spell card on the table, and then you take your essence in your hand, and you basically push those cards into the spell. You're exhausting yourself a little, but spells are really powerful, so there's a little cost for a great effect. Now, these are basically your sort of get-out-of-jail-free cards. You can only use them once per story. Once they're gone, you'll be able to recover them, but only at the last chapter. So make sure you use them wisely.
And again, for our viewers, the chapter is?
A chapter is one sort of succinct sort of round in the game where everyone can tackle the risk that's on the table. And then basically, once they're done, it moves on to the next section.
Okay. Now, campaign mode. How are we going to do that?
Well, when you finish a Vanagard story, what you do is your essence cards have a certain number of runes. You deal them out, and if you find that you're missing a rune that's in the story runes, you can basically take the story rune and make it part of your library, increasing your character and then having another essence later on. You also, depending on the amount of risk you get, gain renown. The more renown you get, the better spells and treasure you can get. So as you go along, your character gets more and more powerful and can explore new worlds with higher difficulty.
Okay, so there's going to be different chapters, different campaigns that are going to be harder for the players, but obviously greater risk, greater reward.
Correct. You could even use the game to roll out as a full-fledged RPG, where rather than doing like fast-paced chapter, you can take your time and then run a party using the same rules to go through like an epic adventure over the course of 4 hours if you want.
Right. And so I think that kind of gives the players that choice in terms of the throttle, how quickly they want to run through a storyline, right? So you could go through a bunch of chapters and finally get to the final chapter, which kind of ties that whole story together. And in half an hour, you can go through an entire adventure, whereas probably in other systems, you maybe would have just gotten through half of a fight, right? So this is really, really fast-paced. And so I think that speaks a little bit to the appeal also, right? So this is kind of being designed for a very broad range of player, right?
Well, you can use it for a quick sort of family night where you play a couple games over the course of an evening, and then, next night you can play another other couple of games, or if you have a family that wants to, for example, run a full-fledged RPG campaign with their kids, you can have someone just being sort of the Norn at the table and taking their kids through an adventure with very, very little prep. What I do sometimes is I use this story version of the game to sort of do the preamble, the travel scene essentially, and then I do break out into RPG mode to do a more immersive experience for the rest of it. But both options are open, and it's easy to switch back and forth between the two.
That's very cool. I've had like a lot of fun playing this, and I think right now with an open beta, it's a great time for you to jump in. If this is your cup of tea, click on the link below. It's going to take you to the open beta download, and have some adventures. Tell your friends, and the Kickstarter is coming soon.
Indeed.
Thanks, Chris. See you next time.